This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Have you been struggling lately? Maybe you're having trouble sleeping, difficulty with the relationship, or just suffering from self-doubt. Now, y'all know there's no shame in my game, and life has been lifing lately. Trying to manage the priorities of being a wife, mom, friend, and full-time entrepreneur, it can get overwhelming. If this sounds like you, then BetterHelp wants to help you today. BetterHelp offers licensed therapists who are trained to listen and help you. Talk to a therapist in a private online environment at your convenience. There are over 20,000 therapists in BetterHelp's network, which gives you access to help that may not be available in your area. All you have to do is fill out a questionnaire to assess your specific needs, and then you get matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. How cool is that? Then you schedule secure video and phone sessions. Plus, you can exchange unlimited messages, and everything you share is completely confidential. You can also request a new therapist anytime at no additional charge. Join the 2 million plus people who have taken charge of their mental health with an experienced therapist from BetterHelp. There's a special offer to the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast listeners. You get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/slang. That's betterhelp, HELP.com/slang, SLAYING. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast. You're listening to the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast with Coach Felicia, where we empower Black women to overcome their doubts, fears, and insecurities in order to give birth to their God-given purpose. Join me and sometimes some of my friends on our journey as we remind you that you are not alone. I'm Felicia Wallace, and together we will find our fears and slay them. Hey Slayers, welcome back to another episode of the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast. It's your girl, Coach Felicia. Welcome to all the new and continued listeners. No matter how you found the podcast, whether it was by way of a guest episode, solo episode, or you found me on the internet, thank you so much for being here and wanting to be a part of this journey. You guys, we are getting closer to that 50,000 download mark, and I'm so excited. So thank y'all so much for continuing to listen and share, and just keep it going until we hit that and we surpass it. If you have not subscribed to the newsletter, you need to make sure that you go to the website and you do that now. The reason why is that when stuff is happening in person, events are happening, you are the first to know. My Slayer Nation on the newsletter, Slayer newsletter. I'm still playing around with this word Slayers, right? But basically, my Slayer Nation will know firsthand. And so you want to be plugged in so that when these things happen and it's like, oh, it's limited, you get first dibs. Like, for real, you want to be plugged in so that you can do that. So let's talk about a few things. So I know that y'all have been, those of you all who have been listening to me for a while, even those who haven't, you listen often and you hear the ads that happen. Some of them are ads that are host read, me, and some are plugged in from my hosting site. But the ads that are host read, that are from me, are done specifically to give one attention to the things that I'm either selling, I'm either promoting for myself or for others. And so if you are a business owner, if you are an entrepreneur and you are hearing that, you heard that ad and you are interested in purchasing ad space for your business on the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast, please email me at info@FeliciaWallace.com. That information will be in the show notes, but y'all, we're growing. And so part of what I do is, and what I want to do, a part of my journey as well, is to bring attention to other businesses who are doing things. And so if you would like to be a part of this journey and you would like to make sure that your business is shared with the Slayer Nation, make sure you email me about ad space. Again, info@FeliciaWallace.com. Y'all also know that this podcast was an assignment from God. You know that I started this not necessarily wanting to do it, but I was definitely being obedient. And in real life, I show up every week because y'all show up. As these numbers continue to grow, I'm like, yeah, bro, people are really, really listening. But it's not, it isn't something that is necessarily always easy. It is time consuming. I have to, carve out time for my day. I have to sometimes not do a few things. But I have to make time for it because I believe in what it is that I do. I'm, again, being obedient, but also so that I'm connecting with you all. With that being said, podcasting is not cheap, right? We have to pay for hosting. We have to pay for equipment. We have to pay for sometimes advertisement, depending on how big we want to go. And I told y'all, Slaying Self-Doubt will be a household name, right? And so if you enjoy this podcast and you find value from it, you can make a donation by buying me a coffee. It is an basically like a donation app where it literally is you buy me a coffee. One coffee is $5, right? And your support doesn't go unnoticed. It allows me to create new content and reach more people. So if you are interested in supporting the podcast outside of just listening, consider making a donation. So go ahead and click that buy me a coffee link, and go ahead and buy me a coffee. I like, it's the fall. I like a pumpkin spice latte. You know what I'm saying? But it really will help as we are trying to grow this this movement in real life. And so today, guys, we are on a new series. We are in a new month. It is October. I am recording this on October 1st, a Saturday. Okay. But we are in a new month. And I told you guys before, this month we will be having an IG Live series where we're going to be talking about slaying our finances. And so that's what we talk about here on Sunday's show. It'll be my viewpoint and my where I'm coming from on the subject that we're going to discuss on Thursdays with our guest, the money mindset coach Tiffany Burns from the Lotus Legacy. And so today we're talking about earning money. Okay, I know y'all are probably thinking, what exactly, what do you mean, what you about to get into? Nothing serious, just a little something. Okay, but I really want to, I believe that it's important for us to have these conversations, right? Like, a lot of what we do on this show is have conversations that people are having in their head, not at their dinner tables, not on vacation, not not always in the circles that they need to be. But if we are out here really trying to be generational curse breakers, we have to have difficult conversations. And y'all know, in the Black community, we don't talk about money. Okay. It's almost like we don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about money. Like, it just doesn't happen. It isn't a conversation that happens. You need to mind your business. As long as you got food in your mouth and the roof over your head, we good, right? That is pretty much the kind of connotation that comes along with it. And it's generational. Like, we're always like that. My cousins and I joke a lot of time where somebody asks you how much you make, or like your kids. When I say somebody, I mean like your kids. Like, adults know not to do all that, but like your kids, and you feel like they in your personal business. Like, I ain't about to tell you, we good, right? Now, I'm not saying that you can't tell them. That's completely up to you. But I do believe that conversations about money need to be had. We need to have very specific conversations with them about saving, about paying your bills on time, about credit, about debt, about investment, like about earning a certain amount of money. Like, all of that is very, very important. And so I figured, like, what better way to start, like, practicing what I preach, basically, and to talk about it here on the show. So for today, I want to use some biblical scripture to go along with what we're talking about. So this is coming from Luke 14:28-30. It says, here's an example. Perhaps one of you wants to build a tall building. Before you start to build, you will sit down, you will decide how much it will cost. Then you need to know if you have enough money to finish the work. If you do not do this, you may not have enough money. You may put in the first stones in the ground, but then you cannot finish the building. If you have to stop, other people will laugh at you. They will say to each other, that man is a fool. He started to build and he could not finish the work. And so when we're talking about earning money, I like that scripture for multiple reasons, but specifically about earning money is you need to know what you need in order to build. And I'm not just talking about building buildings. I'm not talking about building businesses. I'm talking about your family. I'm talking about your legacy. I'm talking about the life that you want to have for yourself, the dreams, your aspirations. Like you, nothing is free. You have to finance your dreams. That is a fact, right? There are some situations where, yeah, people have it. You know, you may have a trust, somebody gave you something, you inherit some money, you win the lottery. But for most people, that is not how it happens. For most people, they don't just like aren't always born into wealth or born into money, or money just falls into their lap. For most of us, we have to build the life that we want, right? And so when we talk about the sentence that kind of got me in the scripture was, you will decide how much it will cost. You will decide how much it will cost. Then you need to know if you have enough money to finish the work, right? You need to know how much it's going to cost. And so I wanted to first talk about my money story, because I think what is so important is that we have to know what our relationship with money is before we're able to really figure out what we need. Okay. So for me, my money story is that my parents did well for themselves. My parents were like first generation kids who were making six figures. This is like in the 90s, right? Both of my parents made over six figures, and they were the ones who quote unquote made it. They were the first ones that were in a single family home living in the suburbs. They were the ones that were, we were going on vacation. I remember being 9 years old and being in Jamaica, right? I remember going to Disney World more than one time. I remember having, whatever the latest thing was that was in Toys R Us, right? Or in the department stores, being at underneath my tree on Christmas day. You know what I'm saying? I know I recognize that my parents worked really, really hard to make sure that our story didn't look like theirs, right? That I'm very clear of. But with that being said, conversations were happening about it. So my relationship with money was that it's just gonna be here. I didn't know you had to earn it. I didn't know you needed to save. I didn't know you needed to watch your spending. I didn't even know you needed to give. I knew that however it was going to come, it was just going to come, and it was going to be there for me, right? And what that taught me is I didn't necessarily think I had to work for it. This is my air quotes, okay? And so because of that, I kind of was just like, oh, I got a job. And my first job actually was working with my dad. And I pretty much was like, I mean, okay, well, I got money. I got my money to spend on me, but they my parents. And so whatever else I need, they take care of. So if I blow through my paycheck, they got me, right? And at the end of the day, when you're a kid, of course you think like that, but there was never for me, I felt like there was never a correction in like, yeah, that's not how the real world works, right? Like if you blow your paychecks, you not getting nothing until you get paid again. And then I got a regular job. Where was my first job? I think I worked at Sam's. Yeah, I did. That was my next job was working at Sam's. And that was good. Like I was like, okay, they paying me good, blah, 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 whatever, whatever. But I still had the same habits, right? Like it's my money and I spend it on whatever I want to spend it on. And my parents would take care of the rest, right? I remember my first year in college, I went to Hampton, and I laugh at my mom now about it because she was just like, I knew nothing. I really didn't. Like, I don't even know. So before, like, I want to say back then it's probably when like bank cards first came out, because Bama's was still writing checks everywhere, right? But that was probably around the time when bank cards first came out. And so she gave me a bank card to go to school with, right? And so it was my card, but it was linked to her account. There was no she didn't ask. I mean, she didn't say, and I didn't ask. They was like, I just went to the mall. We went, where we going? Oh, we going. When I tell y'all, every week I had a new pair of tennis shoes. Every time something, I was like, oh, let me just do that. I was just swiping the card. And then I would go home on the weekends and be like, can we go to the outlets? Can we go do this? And again, because conversations were happening, I just thought money was just on the other side of that. And why not? Like, let's just swing, swing. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, oh, okay, swipe here, swipe here, swipe here. I was like, oh, I got this. So once I finally came home from not finishing school, my mother was like, okay, now you an adult, right? We not take care of you. You're here. You need to pay some rent while you in here, or you need to pay a bill in this joint. If you ain't gonna go back to school and you're gonna work, this is what you need to do. You need to get a car. Like, it was like all these responsibilities. I was like, what is happening? Like, why, wait a minute, hold up, time, pause, quit. Like, what is going on here? No one ever said I had to grow up. Like, why couldn't I stay in this space, right? And so then I ended up working with my dad again, but like contracting with another contracting with him. He was I work with one of his contracts in DC government. So now I'm getting like a real full-time, like I got a regular job, right? Like, I am working, paying for insurance, benefit, all of that stuff. Like, it's happening, right? I have to give my parents money. I'm like, what is going on? And so I literally remember the first time that my car got repossessed. And I was like, wait a minute. So you mean that if you don't pay this, they just come take your car? Like, I don't understand. I don't get it. How come nobody told me that they could do that? Like, it's mine. Like, I bought it, but okay, but you're not paying the bills, right? And so there was like this thing of like, oh, this doesn't happen to people, because I have friends who are not, that it's not happening to them. I'm like, what is happening? But I'm, again, still not knowing. I'm just like, I'm gonna figure it out, right? I then in the same kind of situation, so I wasn't paying my car note, and then I also wasn't paying insurance. Now, I know we must be riding out here dirty, right? But so when it was time for me to renew my registration, right, whatever happened, it was Jesus at this point, okay? Because I knew I didn't have the insurance, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go try again. They let me register. So I went ahead and re-registered, went about my business, and was like, oh, boom. Like, if I don't have to worry about it, that's cool. That's cool. That was probably, so this is early 20s. And this cycle went on for a very long time. And when I say cycle, I mean, I probably had my car repossessed at least 3 times. And the very last time was when I was like 26, 25, 26 or something like that. And that time, my son's father had just started working in an organization. He wasn't getting paid like a regular paycheck. He's literally making minimum wage. By this time, my mother is no longer working. It is just my father. They're taking care of my grandmother. Like, life is completely different from teenage years, right? And so I remember calling like, so ain't nobody gonna help me? Like, I mean, I don't understand. And my mom said to me, like, do you want to be a mother? And I was like, I mean, of course I do. And so she's like, how can you take care of another human being if you can't take care of yourself? And I remember being at work, and by this time I was working in healthcare. I was slowly getting myself back together. Like, I was like, okay, you need to career sis. Like, girl, you need to be in something. By this time I'm working in healthcare, and I just remember being at my job and being like, wow, like, no, that's really, really, that you make a very, really good point, right? And I'm talking to, my son's father, and he's like, this is ridiculous. Like, how do you not know you're supposed to be? And I was just like, I mean, I was, and then I wasn't, and then I was, and then again, I wasn't. Like, it was just like a kind of a roller coaster of like me really not knowing what to do. And so like I said, like 25, 26, something like that. And so I think at that time I really started to get back into church and like going on a regular basis and participating and volunteering my time and all that other stuff. And something about that just grew me up. But also, more importantly, it was the conversation that my mother had with me. Like, that statement of like, if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else, was really like, girl, you need to get yourself together. Like, what is going going on. And so I made a decision right at that moment. And I was like, okay, you have to figure out what is happening and why you're not like, what do you need to do? What needs to be different? And so I remember that night kind of going home and, talking to him about it and just being like, all right, I really have to make some changes and I have to figure this thing out because listen, I'm out here clubbing every weekend, hanging out, you know what I'm saying? We doing whatever we want to do because we don't have no kids, like we young. Like why? Right. Um and so I ended up getting a part-time job at the hospital that I was working at. So I worked my regular hours. And then the old department that I would work at, I reached out to them and was like, hey, would you all be willing, like, could I do some stuff on the weekends or if y'all have, because they work like random hours or whatever have you. And so they were like, yeah, sure. We got you. Like, if we need you, blah, blah, blah. So I did that. And then I was like, hey, this isn't enough because they didn't always need me. Right. And so then I was like, no, I really need to take this seriously. And so then I started like reading up on stuff about like your finances and what you need to do to like raise your credit score. And I started, it wasn't podcasting, but it was like talk radio. Right. The first thing I ever listened to was Dave Ramsey. And I listened to all of these people talk about how they were, living their dream, how they paid off all this debt and what you needed to do. And, and I was just like, okay, well, first things first, like the money I have is okay, but I need to do something else. Right. And so then I ended up I left the other department and then ended up working in a different department for a time being, probably I want to say for like, it probably was like a year and a half. And my intention behind that was I worked nights basically. So I worked from 7:30 until 3:30. I went home for a couple of hours and then I went back from 8 until 12 because there was a max, like you couldn't work a certain amount of overtime. But I think I worked from 8 to 12, so another 4 hours. But I did that every single day, including the weekends, because my goal was I'm paying this car off. I will never get repossessed again. Like I am paying this car off, and that's going, like, this is my focus. And so I remember a whole summer had gone by. So this was like 2006. So summer had gone by. Like I'm like, oh my gosh. I remember being on this like it's before there was cell phones and Instagram and all that other stuff where people could chit chat. It's like a thing called, we had like these golly, what are they called? It's like not chat rooms, but like this chat board or whatever. And so everybody who was like going to like it's called T-Mont. Everybody who was going to like go-go shows and all this other stuff, like we would, catch up with each other, what show was playing, whatever have you. And I just remember that summer, like watching, like I'm at work at night, like watching Bama's just talk about what show they just left. And I had to keep reminding myself, like, we're doing this for a reason. We're doing this for a reason. And every week I just kept doing it until I was able to walk into that credit union and give them Bama $17.32 and was like, can you give me the title to my car? Okay. That was the most gratifying feeling that I had. And I was like 27 by that time, 26, 27 by that time. But it just took me that long to realize that what are you doing? Like, you really have to figure this thing out. You can't live the rest of your life like this, right? And so that changed the trajectory of kind of like how I operated. It really made me think about, like, I was running my credit report. I was figuring out, because back then, you got charged or you had to do have somebody run your credit so you can get a copy of it. Well, I had learned that all you have to do is write them and tell them that you are disputing something or you needed a copy. If you wrote them every 30 days, they would update it. And when I tell you, I had a stack of like receipts. I was calling people. So in the midst of all of that, right, I get pregnant. I have my oldest son. I get another job working somewhere else. The insurance thing finally catches up with me. And the state of Maryland was like, ma'am, you owe us $5,000 because you ain't had no insurance in 4.5 years. And I was like, you right. So I remember ended up having to call a friend of mine and I asked him, I was like, hey, listen, this is what was going on. And, I'm trying to get myself together, but I don't have $5,000 to get in right now. Can I put my car in your name? go under your insurance and, what I'm saying, like, and he was like, cool, bet, let's, like, I got you, whatever have you. Okay, cool. Did that so I could keep my car, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to renew it. I took care of all the stuff. But it was really like, all right, now you do have another person to take care of. Then you have to figure this thing out for yourself. And so it was just like, okay, yes, I'm working here. I'm having, I got a kid now. I got to figure all this stuff out. But it really put me in a place that I was like, I don't ever want my son to have to go through this. Like, by the time I had him, I was very clear of how I wanted his money story to be. It wasn't that we was going to struggle. It wasn't that I needed it to be right down the middle. I needed you to know that you can have what you want if you earn it. You can have what you want, but you need to do the right thing. You can't miss out on your bills. You can't be selfish. You can't be, you got to make sure that you're making enough money. You got to make sure that you have it. Don't overspend. Don't, like, there was so many things I was like, I know that, at the end of the day, I know the lesson that I learned that I want to teach to my kids, right? And so, yeah, like, overall, it ended up working out. Sad funny, well, I don't know if it's funny or not, but sad story, when my husband and I first started dating, like, anybody ever hear me talk about him, y'all know he is a money guru. Like, he don't play about it at all. I think the first 30 days we was dealing with each other, he was like, what's your credit score? And I was like, I'm working on it. Like, I didn't even have an answer for him, but he was like, I don't play about my credit score. And even that was enough to be like, okay, then bet. Like, I need to be where he at. Like, he was really motivating me. So, but anyway, so when we started dating or whatever, my friend who had my car on, his name was having his own situation going on. He like, but yeah, you know what I'm saying? I need to, you're going to have to take the car out. I got to take the car out my name, because I got some stuff going on. I was like, all right, cool. Whole time I still owe the state of Maryland, because y'all know how we do. It's trifling, but whatever. I was like, oh, you gonna get whatever money I get from my taxes. I'm not paying you anything. Like, y'all taking extra money anyway. Like, take this money until I reach zero and I'm gonna be fine. So I remember having a call Brian and being like, I need to talk to you about something. And so I remember having to tell him, and his first words to me was, I mean, I don't mean no harm, but that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I was just like, okay, great. So are we doing this or not? You gonna help me out? He like, I mean, I'm gonna help you out, but he was like, I just want you to know that was really, really irresponsible. I was like, yeah, I know, I get it. I was irresponsible at that time. So totally understand it now, right? Like, but I'm grateful, I'm grateful to him that because otherwise, again, would have been the same situation. I listen. At this present time, I need my car. I need to be able to get to work to pay these waivers. But it really was, I'm grateful that I had that he extended that grace to be able to help me out, to be able to do that. And to also, like, by the time we were dealing with each other, I still was really trying to fix some of the mistakes that I had made. I had heard the whole story that, like, hey, if you wait 7 years, stuff will fall off your credit. And I had like this outstanding balance from a discovery card that they had sent me as soon as I turned 18, and ain't nobody telling me cut that joint up. But as soon as I turned 18, and I was at Pentagon City at the Jean Machine buying Sergio's and with them BOGOs, like the stretch jeans. Listen, I was tearing them molds up. Okay, so I was like, hey, listen, I'm gonna just wait for these 7 years to go by. And once it goes, it'll drop, right? I was like, I'm not paying these joints. I was just like, child, it's not funny, but no, pay your bills, y'all, for real, pay your bills. But that was my money story. My money story is that I did not, my relationship with money was trash. It's just going to figure itself out, right? Until I learned that, no, you have to, there's things that you are responsible for, that you have to do to make sure you can do the things that you want to do. And so you hear all the time about this scarcity versus abundance mindset. And a lot of times people talk about it in reference to money, but a lot of it really is just your mindset in general. Like, scarcity can be in anything. It can be scarcity of time, scarcity of skills, an abundance of time or an abundance of skills, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be money, but you do need to know where you are. You need to know that scarcity mindset could be as simple as I don't have enough, so I don't think I can, or I have so much and I want to hold on to it because I don't want it to go nowhere, right? Or where I was at was kind of like, which is the scarcity mindset of like, oh, okay, like it's just gonna come. Like we say, like money's gonna come to me. Yeah, I believe that. Like I want money to flow through me and flow, but it goes both ways, right? And for me, it was like my scarcity came in like, oh, okay, so I can spend on mine and something's going to come from somewhere else. I don't have to be responsible for it. I don't have to be responsible with it. It'll just figure itself out. And as I got older, I'm like, no, you need to be clear about what it is that you want to do with your money, but also where this money is coming from. It ain't gonna come out of thin air, like with the way you thought it was when you were a teenager. You have to do some work, right? And so, as I was getting more into trying to, better myself and just being on a journey of like my own kind of self-healing from all the things, right? I started really looking at stuff to say, what does God say about money, right? So this scripture right here of knowing like you need to know how much it's going to cost you. What is it going to cost? And a lot of times we sit down, I think I talked about this a little bit last week. It's like we don't talk about money. We don't talk about that. We don't try to figure it out. And I can say that, there's times where you say, we good. I don't have to worry about that. But even in this entrepreneurship journey, if I had to do anything all over again, it probably would have been that, which would have been really asking, what we did was, as we said, how much money do we need to be able to afford? How much do we need to, like, for us to afford for me to come home? What do we need to have, right? We took care of like what it was going to look like for me to be home and what these bills are going to look like in the house and taking care of the kids and all that stuff. What we did not say to ourselves is how much it costs to start a business, how much it costs to, um, you know, you know, on the startup cost. How much do we have to invest into this business? How long do we have to invest into this business, right? And so when you don't sit down and you don't figure out how much it is, you're going to find yourself in situations where you like, wait a minute, what? How do we get here? Because you will not have enough money to finish the work, which is what the word says, right? And I think a lot of times we figure out like, I don't want to look foolish, right? So I don't necessarily want to quit. I don't want to have to go back to work. I don't want to have to do certain things because what will people say? And so this is kind of like my final point is that at the end of the day, whatever it is you're trying to do, you got to get money. When it was time for me to say, no, I need to get my credit together, which now I have it 800 plus score. Okay. But when it was like, I need to get my credit together, I need to figure out, I need to find money somewhere. Okay. Yes. My regular 9 to 5 is allowing me to be able to get back and forth to work every day, pay for my son's, daycare, gas, all that food, all the other stuff. But I need extra money. I need to figure out how I'm going to pay these things off. Maybe some of it was as simple as saying, listen, I'm going to give you $12.50. I remember I had like a very small student loan debt, and that's how I started. $12.50 every pay period. And then when I got a raise and it's like, okay, I'm making a little bit more money, I added to that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. In between that time, I've done different little, what do they call it? Like money marketing things to try to make some money. Like my husband will always say like, you always be trying something. I do, because I feel like that there's ways to be able to do stuff. I'm not just going to just sit around and just hope that it's going to come. Like I have to put some work into it, right? And so even now, I've had this conversation with you all, a few times over the last couple of weeks, like being in this space right now, like, yes, it costs to be an entrepreneur. And you, like, even in doing this podcast, when I wrote the outline out and I was just like, oh my gosh, even though I put it in the show notes and I put it on certain stuff, like I am verbally asking people to donate to the, buy me a coffee donation thing. And I'm like, it makes me feel uncomfortable. However, I know what it is that I'm trying to do. I know that I'm not just saying, hey, I just want your money just to want it. Like, I know that I'm growing this movement. And in order to grow the movement, in order to build what you need to build, like, you need to have money. And I think this is probably going into other conversations that'll probably happen later on this month. But Like, God wants us to be wealthy. God wants us to build his kingdom. It doesn't happen just because we think of it. It doesn't happen just because of the vision that he had. There has to be funding, right? And so when we talk about earning money, you have to figure out, how can I earn money now? What do I need to do now? What can I do now that's going to help me out in the future? So for myself, I said, okay, there's some things that I need to do. A couple of weeks ago, I put my bid in, shot my shot for a full-time job. We'll see where that comes. I have thought about some other like side gigs, couple when I first left my job. Y'all, I don't know if y'all remember, I was doing Instacart, the in cart shopping. And so I was like, all right, it's about to be the holidays. Let me go back to doing that. You know what I'm saying? Let me figure that out. Maybe there's some other place, some other stuff that I can do, some work from home stuff, some part-time stuff. Like, this is where you just figure it out, because at the end of the day, you are building something. You are building the life that you want. You are building the life that you deserve. And money is a part of that. But if you do not talk about it and you act like it doesn't matter, you're going to find yourself just circling the drain, because you're not going anywhere. You're just kind of just pacing. That's all we're doing. And so my goal with these conversations for this month is to really get us to plan well, right? Like, this is financial planning month. And so let's say what we're going to do with it. Well, first and foremost, you need to know your money story. What's your relationship with your money? So you know how you operate, that you know what your pitfalls. Are you a spender? Do you spend too much? If they send you in Target, are you walking out there with a $350 bill every single time? Do you need to press pause and do an Amazon fast, right? So many things are at our fingertips right now. Do you have a problem like me? Sometimes you walk in the grocery store and you pick up stuff that you like, oh, I'm going to use this for a recipe in about 5 months. And then you go back and you're like, dang, this joint expired, right? Are you afraid do you hoard money, right? Like, there's so many different things that could be stifling where you're trying to go, that you need to know your story off the break. And then what does God say about money? Like, read the Bible, go and look up some scriptures. I gave you one today. Lots of times people like to read the what is the one that's like the root of, money is the root of all evil. First of all, a lot of times that joint is read out of context, but it very much so is like, if it runs you, if money runs you, if that's what your goal to everything is money. I gotta have money. I need money. If that's the root of all evil. But if you know their money is a resource and not your source, that makes all of the difference. It makes the difference tremendously. And then the third thing is, you got to get money. You have to figure out how to earn money right now. We spend more time talking about what we need, what we wish we had. Again, we talk a lot about what we want, what we wish we could have, all the other stuff, but we are not doing. What are you doing? How can you earn more money? That is the question that you have to ask yourself. That is where you need to be clear upon, so that you're able to do what it is that you're trying to do. And y'all, I don't want to be all, I feel like I'm sounding like which I really am not. I'm not. But I'm just saying, like, this is me talking to me too. Like, me being honest about myself. Because when I started this journey, I was all like, I don't want to charge nobody. I don't want to do this. This is a God thing. Why I gotta, and here's the thing. You can't build what it is I can't build the vision God gave me without money. Period. I know what it is I'm supposed to do. So ultimately, if we're not being active in our building, then we're delaying it. We're delaying the blessing for other people. And for me, I just said, you know what? This series is right on time, because I no longer want to delay other people's blessings. I need to do what I need to do. And if it's going to make me uncomfortable to ask, then I'm just going to be uncomfortable every day. And I'm just going to continue to ask. So again, know your money story. What is your relationship with money? And tell the truth, sis. Okay. What does God say about money? Read your Bible and read it and meditate on it. Like, have a conversation with him about it. Listen to him. What is he saying to you? What is he putting in your spirit about it? And then get money, sis. Get money. I ain't gonna finish the rest of that, but get money. How can you earn more money right now? Think about it. It is so many ways to be able to, you probably don't even have to leave your house to do it. There's so many ways that just try. We spend so much time talking. Just try, y'all. Please. Please, please, please. Okay. As always, thank y'all for rocking with me. If you enjoyed this podcast and you find it valuable, please consider making a donation by buying me a coffee. Your support will help me create new content and reach more people. Click the buy me a coffee link. Remember, Jesus in therapy. Take charge of your mental health and get 10% off your first month of therapy at www.betterhelp.com/slang, SLAYING. That is www.betterhelp.com/slang, SLAYING. Get yourself a journal. It's holiday season. Go ahead and purchase that. That's on. You can get that off of Amazon. If you're interested in working with me directly, go ahead to the link and click book a connection call with me. Make sure you subscribe to the newsletter. Share this with at least 10 people. 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We are trying to hit 50,000 downloads this year, y'all. We are close. We can do it. I can't do it without you. I'm telling you, I can't do it without you. Make sure you're following me on Instagram. It's Slaying Self-Doubt. Remember, every Thursday this month, the month of October at 7 p.m., turn your notifications on so that you know at 7 p.m. I will be going live on my page and we will be talking to Tiffany Burns, money mindset coach of the Lotus Legacy. And we're going to be talking about money, y'all. We're talking about money until next week, or actually until Thursday. See ya. All right, y'all, that's all for this week. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to share, subscribe, rate, and review. Remember to head over to Facebook and Instagram and follow me at Slaying Self-Doubt. Oh, wait, don't forget, go to my YouTube channel and watch this episode, and remember to press the subscribe button. Until next week, see ya.